program itself. And so I'm just going to give a little bit of an introduction to our speaker, Sarah Murphy, and I'll say that she's an intuitive therapist from Bryn Mawr who has worked with clients in private practice for nearly a decade, working with the body, mind, and spirit. Sarah helps her clients get to the root of their issues so they can clear inner obstacles and thrive. She uses her highly developed intuition as well as proven mind-body techniques such as hypnosis, guided imagery, energy psychology, and talk therapy. She's also taught yoga for more than a decade, so she brings a yoga-influenced philosophy to her work. She's certified in hypnotherapy, has an MA in counseling, an RYT 200 certified yoga teacher certification, and is a Reiki master. She's also the co-founder of the Meditation Station, an online meditation membership community dedicated to promoting world peace through inner peace. Her website is also www.transformativetherapy.com. This evening, Sarah will talk about the equinox as significant not only at the time of harvest, but at the time signifying the balance point between day and night and light and dark. And I'll let her explain the rest. So without further ado, let's welcome Sarah Murphy.
The first time that I gave a speech that I can remember, I was 12, and I was in this thing, kind of a torturous thing called middle school. Anybody ever been in middle school before? And I was trying to fade into the wall and get through my book report. And then I got better at talking in front of groups over time. And then when I was in graduate school, I had to give a talk at the end of my human development course, and we were tasked with giving a 5-minute talk. We had to make a poster on a certain size of poster board, and our teacher was very particular. But other than that, it could be anything related to human development, and I chose to talk about the chakras because I was a yoga teacher and a Reiki practitioner at the time. And I got up at the very end of the semester in front of a group of, 20 people that I knew fairly well after being in class with them for months. I gave my talk, and I went to meet my then boyfriend in the park to go for a run. And it's kind of gross, but I got out of my car and I threw up on the parking lot. And I was like, what is wrong with me? I'm usually pretty comfortable talking. Why did that make me so upset that I got physically very, very sick? So I needed to get to the root of that and figure out what was going on. And I had a hypnotherapy session, and I did a regression therapy. And I went back to a vision of a lifetime of being stoned to death for having religious views that I was being persecuted and murdered for. So things that happen that get locked in our subconscious mind, whether it's from a different lifetime, and I don't know if that literally is the truth, maybe it's a paradigm that I tapped into, but things that get locked into our subconscious minds, for whatever reason, drive our behavior. And usually we have no idea that they're there. So that's kind of what I'm going to be addressing today in light of this phase that we're in right now with the equinox, which has some significance, a couple of different significances. So I have note cards, I'm old-fashioned. Something amazing is happening in the world. Like we just were talking about the Pope being here and how the space where the people met to pray together and worship together is supercharged right now. And I was looking at, how many people really came, and the estimates of 800,000 are probably overblown, but probably it was more than 100,000, right? A lot of people coming together. I was trying to find on the Global Consciousness Project if there were any data yet about what happened, and I couldn't find any. Do you guys know the Global Consciousness Project? Anybody know that? You said yes, Gary? Oh, yeah. So what do you know about that?
This is an organization that
So it's, 50-50, so it should be completely random what numbers are being generated at any time. And they're finding that when big groups of people are focused on specific issues, the randomness goes away and the numbers start to synchronize. And the biggest, anybody guess when the biggest synchronization of numbers was? What was the biggest event that got people so attentive to one thing all around the world that it changed? Do you know? 9/11. So, I was also a college professor for a while, so I'm going to make you guys answer questions. So we just recently had this beautiful experience of the Pope coming to Philadelphia after being in DC and New York, with a phenomenal, and so my son told me, Pope went to DC, New York, Philadelphia. You know the punchline? Hates the Cowboys. Who do you think will laugh? It's the NFC East with us now Cowboys. Know thy comedian, know thy audience. That was a big thing. We also, just before the Pope came, was International Day of Peace, September 21st. Anybody know about the International Day of Peace? Yeah? Anybody else? A couple of people nodding their head. What do you know about the Day of Peace?
Well, I can't say I know much about that.
Okay.
I know we celebrate one after the day, the different events that took place throughout the world.
Yes.
To bring the vibration of peace to the planet.
Yes.
And enhance and increase, the frequency.
Yes. Yes, International Day of Peace with events being celebrated all over the planet. And so Amy told you guys to turn off your phones, but I was going to do this thing that college professors were doing to keep their mobile happy students engaged during class and tell you to take out your phone. But I'll just show you the picture here. So unless you want to take out your phone and look at unify.org, here's a world map. Can you see it a little bit? And there are all these little colored dots all over it that show you places that had registered events for the International Day of Peace. All over.
I'm sorry, what's the name of that website again?
Unify.org. Unify.org. It's awesome. They also promoted the International Day of Yoga. I have another picture. Here's a group of children in India, in Chennai, practicing yoga. Anybody want to guess where this group of yoga mats, yellow yoga mats, was taken? You see it? This was under the Eiffel Tower.
Oh.
The International Day of Yoga is on June 21st, on the summer solstice. This was the first year. There were 1,500 people under the Eiffel Tower. In Chennai, in India, there were 35,000 people practicing yoga together. We had in Philadelphia, our Indian American community got wind of this International Day of Yoga, but not in time to launch an event on June 21st, so we did it on July 21st, and I had the pleasure to be there and participate in that event. And we had hundreds, not thousands, but it grows from here. This was the very first International Day of Yoga. The International Day of Peace, which was on September 21st, was not the first. Anybody know when that International Day of Peace got started? It was in 1982. So that's been around for a while.
I actually went up to the United Nations reading part of that. I was the only one. They had it on their schedule, and the tour guide said, I guess nobody's here to show up. So I was there to show up.
This year?
Like in 82.
Back in 82. Oh, wow. Bless you. That's awesome. And I found a picture of Philadelphia with the Pope. And when I was looking for pictures of Philadelphia with the Pope, I found one from 1979. So there was another papal visit in 79, and the pictures look the same, only the colors aren't as crisp. Let's see. What happened number-wise? You said that this church is 46 years old, so it and I have something in common. Our Pope said a couple of interesting things. I was supposed to end, according to the outline, end with a talk on the Pope, but I knew that Sean was going to be like chomping at the bit to talk about the Pope, so I was kind of turning things around. So Pope had a couple of really beautiful quotes that I think are really relevant to this change that's happening. And one of them, he said, in all religions, the environment is a fundamental good. And another one that I thought was really beautiful, he said, I take this opportunity to thank all those of whatever religion who have sought to serve the God of peace. Yeah. And he said, all that is good, all that is true, all that is beautiful takes us to God. Something really incredible is happening right now on this beautiful earth, and we're participating in it. And these big events bringing huge numbers of people together to do something good in the world, like, this is so new. This is so new. When's the last time that, well, besides 1979, but 100-some thousand people came together to celebrate Mass on the streets of Philadelphia, or 35,000 yogis gathered in Chennai, or 1,500 under the Eiffel Tower, and 30,000 in Times Square. And those are just the big gathering of people. There's also this incredible channeled material that's come forth. A Course in Miracles is a beautiful channeled work, and we have the channeled work of Cryon and Sept and the Abraham material. Alice Bailey and Joakul working in their partnership. How many of you are familiar with the work of Alice Bailey and Joakul? Well, you're going to get to learn about it, because that's my thing. And before Alice Bailey and Joakul worked with Helena Blavatsky with the Secret Doctrine. Have you guys heard of the Secret Doctrine and the Theosophical Society that was founded based on that? And then the Edgar Cayce ARE, the Association of Research and Enlightenment. These are incredible things. It's bringing practical knowledge, but you know what those things basically have in common is so much channeled or telepathically generated material coming forth. So our mind is being used for something in a different way than what has been happening before. So all of these things, the groups coming together to bring about peace on earth through whether it's a Catholic Mass or a Yoga Day or a Day of Peace celebration, and the channel material and us using our mind in a different way. All of this signifies where we are in the New Age. And the New Age is the age of Aquarius. I know you've heard that song. I want to sing it, but I'll spare you. I mean, with the microphone, it's dangerous. Both of my sisters really sing beautifully, but so the Aquarian age, and the Aquarian age coincides with the incoming 7th ray of divinity. So how many of you are familiar with the 7 rays? So there are 7 rays of divinity, 7 types of energy that pervade the entire manifest universe. They're related to, if you're familiar with the idea of the 7 rishis of the throne, the 7 archangels. The sacred number 7 repeats again and again, and these 7 energies touch and color, actually literally, and vivify everything from the floor to the table to the person to the dust mite that's in the world, not on earth but everywhere in the universe. So we're going to talk a little bit about what those rays of divinity are, and then how that affects our world and how it affects our being, our personal self within the world. And then that'll be a little esoteric, and then we'll bring it back to something a little more practical. And I was talking at the beginning about how we are driven by our subconscious processes. So we'll have a chance to find some of our subconscious blocks and do an exercise to heal them. Sounds good?
Yes.
Yeah? All right. So you gotta watch me. I keep looking at the clock because I could talk about this stuff until everybody's asleep. But I won't do that. I promise. So there are a couple of significances of the autumn equinox I mentioned before. The autumn equinox is the lower interlude in the annual cycle. So you know how when you do your meditation, so show of hands, meditation practice, yeah? Okay, so you do your meditation, you maybe, it depends on what form you use, but probably even if you're not using a form that does this specifically, it just happens naturally anyway. You get into your meditation, and for me, my mind has to like click through, and then I'm ready to settle down, and then I kind of find myself raising my vibration, and I'm trying, because of the practice that I'm following, to tap the higher mind and reach a higher ideal. So I'm going up, and then I pause, and sometimes my mind is, but then I come back, and then I come back down, and now I have an idea, or an inspiration, or thing that I know that I didn't know before. I have maybe a picture or something that I can do with this higher idea. Is that familiar to you? That you go higher and there's like nothing, and then you come down and you're like, oh, I got the idea, and here's it, kind of making it practical. And sometimes at first it's like I don't even know how to make that thing practical, right? Does that make sense to you? Does that kind of resonate? So just like we have that in our own personal meditation, that higher interlude, lower interlude, that cyclical nature of things is happening all the time. We have every month the opportunity to do a meditation at the full moon, when it's not about the moon, right? It's about the moon got out of the way and we're getting all that solar energy. So our vibration can go higher, so we can tap these awesome, different, higher energies. And then meditation at the new moon, becoming more popular now, an act of service. Meditation at the new moon, make it practical. How can I serve? What's the way of service? What's the path of taking those beautiful ideas and making them practical? So in the annual cycle, we have the building up phase in the spring. And then from the time of the spring equinox until the summer solstice is the higher interlude of the cycle. And at that time, we have 3 festivals. One is very familiar to the Christian world. It is Easter. The Buddhist tradition has its biggest festival at the full moon in May. Anybody familiar with the Wesak festival? The Wesak festival is kind of the thing in the East, like we have our Easter, which of course has its correlations with that. And then the full moon in June is the World Invocation Day. It's not as popular right now, but that's the higher, those 3 months are the higher interlude. And we have these amazing spiritual festivals happening in different cultures. And now we come into the lower interlude, and what happens at the end of the calendar year? What do we have a lot of going on at the end of the calendar year? A lot of people doing
festivals of light, the return of the light.
Festivals of the light, yep. Heralding the return of the light, yep. What happens to our charitable giving?
Goes up.
Goes way up, right? Everybody at this time, end of the year, like, oh, I'm going to make my donations. About volunteering, service work.
Same deal.
Becomes more popular, more common, yeah. So this is a time of manifesting, and we can see those like practical examples, but manifesting this stuff, the higher ideals, the good in the world. So this is a time of concretizing, of externalizing the beautiful ideals that we were able to tap during a higher interlude. It's the time of the harvest. It's the time of the harvest. So way back 6 months ago we were planting, and now we're going to reap what we have sown, esoterically and metaphysically. And that has significance for our 7th ray era too, because the 7th ray, which I alluded to earlier, is the ray of order, ceremonial order, and bringing the ideals that were pollinated into the emotional plane during the Piscean era under the 6th ray, bringing those into manifestation on the physical plane era. we're here at a really auspicious time, and we have some work to do. The other significance, of course, of the autumn equinox is that it's the balance between light and dark. So exactly a week ago, we were at exactly that balancing point between light and darkness. And as we move into this lower interlude, in addition to our opportunity to be of service, we also have the opportunity to face our shadow self, find the blocks that we're carrying, and hopefully by being present to them, we can do some healing so that we don't have to be burdened by those things anymore. So excited to hear more about the 7 rays of divinity. Good, because I can't wait to tell you about it. But first, I'm going to tell you about Alice Bailey. So Alice Bailey was a British woman. She, I'm good. I got it. No, right. Try not to talk so much with my hands. Alice Bailey was born in the 1880s or so, and her parents died. They were a pretty high-class family, and she was raised by an aunt and uncle. She had one sister, and her aunt and uncle were like, oh, great, now we got 2 kids. So not necessarily a whole lot of love there. And they had governesses, and Alice was kind of a brat, and one time she got mad at her governess, and she threw all of the woman's jewelry down the toilet and flushed it. Talk about being a brat. So when she was a teenager, she was sitting alone in the family parlor, and into the room walks a tall Indian man wearing a turban, and he turns to Alice Bailey and he says, young lady, you have some important work to do, but if you don't get a hold of your temper, you're not going to be able to do it. So you need to get a hold of yourself. And he walked out again. It's like 1900, right? What just happened?